little red one.
Yeah, the red one.
It's Carolyn's microphone.
Uh-oh.
She's going to introduce her.
You need a microphone.
Well,
I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know what to say.
you can
I'll be loud. I can be
get
loud.
loud. Just
Keep it loud.
What's reckless in your
First round of cuts, he was in.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see everybody here tonight. I think I'm a good person to introduce our speaker tonight, Scott Armstrong. What? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not that. At the Pledge of Allegiance.
allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
A good one to introduce Scott because my first job was here in the Allentown School District many moons ago at South Mountain, and I taught German in 8th grade, German foreign language, and then they threw in remedial reading, which was a trip. Kids would not read in 8th grade, and I didn't know it, and they didn't tell me, so that was interesting. But Scott's with us tonight, and he's one of those brave souls who endeavored to get on the Allentown board, and now he's still helping us to try to clean things up, point things out that really do need to be changed. So, Scott?
Thanks, Is that this thing squealing?
No.
Okay, all right. About 5 years ago, I was hoodwinked into running for the Allentown School Board. Now, I had always been involved in candidate recruitment with the Lehigh County Republican Committee, but never wanted to be in public office myself because I have a life. Nonetheless, I managed to get cross-filed, and in that year, there was a real lack of interest in serving on the Allentown School Board, so I got elected and actually came in second with vote tallies. I was cross-registered. Once on the board, I volunteered for several committees. One of them was negotiations because I figured I could be very useful there. Being a Republican, I wanted to look after the taxpayers' best interest. While serving on that committee, I discovered that we taxpayers were paying the salary, benefits, and pension obligations of the teachers' union president. Now, I always assumed that the union was paying her and she was a union employee. When I started to question this, nobody else on the board, in the administration, was shocked, and they were kind of wondering why I thought it was a big deal. That's how it is when you're a Republican in Allentown. But nonetheless, I pressed the point. And finally, to make a long story short, I asked officially at a meeting if this was even legal for us to be paying, this taxpayers, for us to be paying a person who's providing no direct service to the school district, to be paying her salary and her benefits and her pension obligations. And our solicitor came back and said, no, it's not. Now, this was a week before the last election. And I said, well, I'm not going to make a political issue out of this. I'll wait till after the election before I do anything with it. Well, I came in dead last. Being a Republican in Allentown, I came in dead last this time because if you'll remember in the spring of last year, Ed Pulowski put together that ironically named pact called Citizens for a Better Allentown. Well, the question was better for who? It was better for him, yeah. So I was beaten on the Democrat side because he put together a whole slate. So in the fall, I was forced to run as a Republican, and I didn't have a chance. So after that upsetting loss, at my last meeting, I released the information that the solicitor had given us, that indeed, for us to be paying the salary, the pension, and the benefits to the teachers union president was a violation of the school act, of the school laws of Pennsylvania. It was like, everybody was just sitting like this. And the president of the board at that time said, well, does anybody else have any new business? And we moved on. I had given the opinion to the reporter from the morning call. I reported it at a public meeting. It was never reported. Yeah. Well, if you want to be misinformed every day, just turn on the TV or buy a paper, because that'll do it. Now, well, if you want to know where the best food is at Music Fest, you know, perhaps. But I can't eat that food anymore anyway. So, in frustration, I called the Commonwealth Foundation. Now, I had been going back and forth with them. They're a real resource for information for anybody holding public office in the state of Pennsylvania. And they put me in touch with a group called the Fairness Center. They're already engaged in the battle against what's called ghost teachers in Philadelphia. Now, let me look like I'm really hip and pull this up on my smartphone that's often too smart for me. Here's something interesting. In Philadelphia, 16 teachers will earn $1.5 million this year by working full-time for the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers.
And they don't teach in classes.
Never did, yeah. The Philadelphia Federation of Teachers representatives will make an average of $98,000 a year. Now, these are people who are doing strictly union business, working on grievances, organizing, probably lots of political work in there, too. What's or nothing? I'm sure the union wants their employees to work. Yeah, I would think so, yeah. By contrast, the Bureau of Labor Statistics identifies the average Philadelphia teacher's salary to be about $61,000. So these people are making $30,000 more than your average teacher, okay? So the union takes care of itself. Now, in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers does reimburse the school district for these teachers' salaries and benefit payments. However, if you think about it, it's all our money, because all of these teachers are paid for with taxpayer dollars. So our taxpayer dollars are being used, in that case, to pay people to work against our interests. Okay. And it was Franklin Roosevelt who said, people who work for the government / people should not be allowed to unionize, because then who are they bargaining against? Us. And none of us want to be unfair to people who work for the government. We all want them to get a good deal, but we know now it's gone way beyond that. Okay, now they're able to reimburse the school district because the school district, just like every other school district in the state, collects union dues for the unions. Now, you'll remember Governor Scott in Wisconsin got rid of the law that forced school districts to collect union dues for the unions. 85% of the teachers stopped paying union dues. The unions collapsed immediately. It's only because we're forcibly withholding dues do we empower the union with the war chest that they have to engage in politics. In Pittsburgh, the union is allowed to take up to 6 full-time employees out of the classroom to work for unions. Unions must reimburse the district again with taxpayer money, but teachers still accrue seniority and benefit pensions. Same in Philadelphia. While these union organizers are ghost teaching, working for the unions, they're part of the state pension system, which, as we all know now, is $60 billion in the red with unfunded liabilities. We can talk about that more later. Okay, unlike in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, taxpayers in the Allentown School District pay for the entire salary and benefits of the school teachers union president. According to the Fairness Center, since 2000, state and local taxpayers have spent more than $1.3 million in subsidizing the salary of this Allentown education employee. Okay, it should be noted that because those teachers are on district payrolls, they accrue pension benefits at a time when the state PEASER system, that's the Pennsylvania State, we all know that, okay, is, bleeding. It's going to bankrupt the state. Taxpayers on the hook for all this money, blah, blah, blah. And here's a little caveat. In 2014, Tom Wolfe, third and fifth largest campaign contributors were the American Federation of Teachers and the Pennsylvania State Education Association. And then the third largest was SEIU. And these are unions all cut from the same cloth. These are all public sector unions. We think our representatives are representing us. They're not. They're not. They're working for these guys. Trust me. I've seen it with my own eyes where our representatives tell us one thing, and I know teachers in Allentown, and they tell me, oh, you should have heard what he told us. Completely different. All right. Now, the Fairness Center has filed a brief. They've already won a minor victory with PEASERS. That's the Pennsylvania State Education Pension System, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're all going to learn about this in the future. It's going to collapse. They've ruled that it's a violation of PEASERS for school districts to be paying into the pension system for people who aren't teaching. And they've told the Allentown School District this is illegal, and that the teachers union needs to reimburse the school district of Allentown all of those contributions. Now, I talked to somebody on the board. They haven't heard anything about it from the attorney, from the administration, nothing. But they might hear about it Thursday night because they've been caught up in their own stuff. But there's only one or two people on that board that would be interested in even considering that. They're going to have to be dragged kicking and screaming to demand that the teachers union return that money. So it's going to be interesting, but that's the first in what's going to be a long and brutal court fight. And unfortunately, we lost 3 seats on the Superior Court, the Supreme Court in the last election. Yeah, that was a real fiasco. But the good news is this fight is raising awareness, and that's one reason why when Otto called me, I agreed to come here and speak, because in your district, you're not paying your teachers union president full-time, but she or he is getting what's called release time, which is only half as outrageous. Any work that a school teacher does that doesn't have to do with teaching to the kids should be paid by whoever is receiving that service. In this case, it's the teachers union. So if you're allowing your teachers union president to even do half-time a day to do that, that's outrageous, and you have to demand that it be stopped. Now, I put my agent, John Hinkle, in charge of, we already know the answer, but John went through the process of calling. So why don't you tell them what you found out, if you found out anything?
It was pathetic. And I would recommend that everyone...
Talk louder, John.
Yeah, can you bum that microphone or something?
Yeah.
No. Oh.
I don't want to have this thing too close to you. I'm going to pull your ear.
I don't blame you. My wife doesn't stand it too close to me either. But what I would recommend that everyone in the room here pick up the phone this week and call the East Penn School District Administration Building. I did that, and the gentleman answered the phone, and I said, well, I have a question for you. I'm an East Penn School District taxpayer. I gave him my name and my address so we could confirm it. And he says, well, exactly what is your question? And I said, well, my question is, do we pay the teachers, the president of the teachers union, or anybody else that represents the teachers while they are not working to do union business? It was blank on the phone. And I went, oh, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. Hold on, I'm going to have to transfer your call. So he transfers my call, and I get the superintendent's assistant on the phone. And I told her what I was asking about, and she starts flipping through pages and pages. Let me see here. I'm not sure of that. And she says, I said, well, don't you certainly, as far as the superintendent goes, you certainly must have a copy of the contract. You have to. She goes, no, I really can't locate it right now. But, you know, if you want to, you can go on the website for a, oh, Scott, what was that?
Teachers union contract?
Yeah, the need to know. Right to know. And click on, and then download the form, fill it out, and send it in. I said, wait a minute. If I told you what I paid in school taxes, you'd blow your mind. So you're telling me that I have to get a form, fill it out, because you can't physically tell me on the phone. You can't can you pick up the phone and call the union rep and ask them what the situation? Can you tell the president of the union's got to work somewhere in the school district here? Can you get he or her on the phone? Can't do that. You're going to have to, my best recommendation is go online and get the form and send it out. And of course, I hadn't had the time to do that, but it's called jacking around. I would recommend that everybody here tonight call the East. You got, I mean, these people are pathetic. Just call them and tell them that you want to know what is going on in there, and let's see what they tell you. Thank you.
I was told that our representative is not paid, that she's an English teacher, and that she doesn't get paid or have any
If you can give her the microphone too, that'd be great.
Well, I kind of question how do you get your work done for the union if you don't have some time during the teaching day? Yeah, so I don't know. Lynn, do you know any more about that? Sue Arnold is the president. Well, I'm going to find out. I'll ask her.
You could find out exactly what her workload is. Yeah. But rather than calling, it would be a good idea for people to show up at the board meeting and ask publicly, and then it would be a record. Then they would be forced to get back and say, oh yeah, I'll come to the next meeting, you can give me an answer then. And then you show up at the next meeting.
But they always ask for your name and address so they can send.
Hooligans.
They can call you, but nobody else that in that meeting that night, Otto, am I right? Yeah. Knows what the answer is except the person making the question. That's what.
But that doesn't stop you from showing up at the next meeting and reporting on the report they gave you.
Right,
Yeah. I mean, this is sadly what it takes. I tell people that we have the government we deserve. It's not our fault, people in this room. We do our job. But by and large, very few people care anymore. If you've ever done any street work, you know that 50% of the homes in any neighborhood aren't even registered. Another 50% of those people only vote once every 4 years. So you've got a tiny percentage of the population who are electing our leaders.
8% will carry the election.
Yes, yeah, and the demise of the morning call and other local newspapers has really cut into coverage of local school boards and that kind of stuff. So these people can pretty much act with impunity unless we take the time to care. Now, sadly, the teachers union is filled into this void. They're running the public education system in Pennsylvania here from top to bottom. They're controlling school boards, they're controlling our politicians, they're controlling curriculum.
Control of administration.
Yeah, right. And the one reason why the Allentown School District is working so hard, the board is working so hard to get rid of the superintendent in Allentown, is because he wouldn't kowtow to the union. So pick up tomorrow's paper, you'll see that. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
The thing I want to say is, you're talking about doing this. I go to school board meetings, they're lucky for 6 people.
Yeah.
Sit in the chair. And one of the major problems is, if you have a question, they only give you a minute or two to talk about it, bring it up. Okay? But then they have anybody else stand up for 15, 20 minutes saying whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the problem is, it's our problem.
Right.
It's the people. If they had a couple hundred people go over there, okay, Charles Ballard runs the show, okay? Well, you don't have to tell me about that, but I'm saying he runs the show and everything else, and he speaks, and they all speak and everything else. And then on microphones, I told the school board director, I said, what's going on? You can't even understand it. They pick up the microphone, they talk to me, he said, you can't even hear what they're saying, you don't even know what's going on. And they limit you to 2 or 3 minutes with a statement. And then the morning columns and put everything in there. I brought up about the asbestos, I talked to the superintendent and everything else. So I talked to them all. But if we had 5,000 people call in, it'd be a different story. It's all our fault, not us in particular, but the people that don't get involved. They complain, but they never do a damn thing. You know, we can complain about everybody and anything, but if you don't get in there and fill the hall and you have to put it in the gym, they're not going to do anything.
Right, well, I guess all we can do is encourage our friends and neighbors to, care about this.
But they,
I know. Hey, at our age, it's hard to be optimistic, isn't it? That's why we need young people. John, you have a question?
Yeah, Scott, is there actually a legal case going through the state now on this?
Yeah, all the briefs were filed, and the judge is going to rule whether it has merit. So we're hoping to win there. We already got a favorable decision from the Peasers Board. Look, the teachers union in the state is a very powerful, very well-financed organization. They're going to fight this. We don't expect to win any major court victories here soon, but we're just trying to raise awareness. The fact that we're talking about this here tonight is a minor victory. People need to know that their own tax dollars are being used to pay somebody who's working against their own financial self-interest. Now, one other thing that I know this group's very interested in is property tax reform. And the one thing, the property tax burdens are a burden to people. But the one thing we have to keep in mind with that is the problem with Pennsylvania public schools is they've become fiscally unsustainable. There's no way we can afford to pay for public education in Pennsylvania until the pension problem is solved. That's not going to happen anytime soon. And the pension problem is not going to be solved until the teachers union is weakened. That's why any act we can do that weakens the teachers union, which is what we're engaged in right now, just one small step to weaken the teachers union, is going to be a help to facilitate bringing the cost of public education back under control. If you shift the cost of public education from property taxes to sales tax. Now, sales tax is a much fairer tax, but keep in mind, property owners are the voters. And politicians know that. That's when they raise taxes on property owners, they feel the heat. If they raise taxes, if they shift it to sales taxes, they're not going to feel any heat because most of the people paying sales taxes never vote. So keep that in mind that although we all agree that schools should not be funded by property taxes, shifting it right now might, before we get education funding controlled, might not be in our long-term best interest. Otto.
Yeah, one of the problems we also see is across the state of Pennsylvania, school districts are holding over $4 billion in reserves. Let me tell you, in case you haven't heard, how the school districts, and we watched it here in East Penn, how this game is played. When they're preparing the budget, which they're doing right now, they overestimate their expenses and they underestimate their revenues. Oh, well, it doesn't match, so we need a tax increase. You get a tax increase. Then at the end of the year, lo and behold, the real numbers come in, we have a surplus. Oh, but does the taxpayer see the surplus? No, it gets rolled into reserves, which is restricted. Then the process starts all over again with a new tax increase. That's why $4 billion have been set in reserve in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And our previous governor told us, the teachers' unions a couple of years ago, no more until you start spending down those reserves. But you saw what happened. Now we got wolfed.
Well, every school district needs to have a certain percentage of their annual budget in reserve. But they do play that game of over and underestimating. And if there is any savings, because there's not enough pressure from people like us, it goes into new programs. Gee, we need to redo this. We need to add teachers. You know, in Allentown, it's a desperately poor urban district. You know, the board is always pandering to the public, telling them that they can have this, they can have that. And that's the game all politicians play. Too many people are swooned by politicians who tell them they can have something for nothing. Otto.
I got to follow up on that. I started going to school board meetings in 2008. In 2008, East Penn raised your taxes. They had a balanced budget, but they didn't hold enough in reserves, they said. They needed to keep 5 to 6% in reserves. So they gave us a tax increase for the reserves. I thought to myself, wait a minute. I never heard about this reserve situation, so I went and started going to school board meetings. And I started asking them, how many reserves do you have? Oh, we only have one. Well, lo and behold, over the years, we find out there's a reserve in every category throughout the budget.
Yeah, well, you've got good problems. Too much money. Unlike the district I represented. Any more questions? Yeah, Carol.
We have paycheck protection in the state too that got close to passing, but that would give the teachers a choice whether they want to be a member of the union or not. And I think that would take some wind out of the sails. Plus, it wouldn't be the school districts giving one check. Each person would write their own personal check if they wanted to continue to be part of the union. And I thought, oh, that would really do them run for their money.
Isn't it pathetic that the Republicans only got a backbone on stuff like that when they had a Democrat governor? I mean, 4 years, we controlled all 3 branches, and we did nothing. We could have gotten rid of straight party voting. We could have gotten paycheck protection. We could have done where people don't have to, what do you call that, where you don't have to be a union shop. You know, an open labor state. Yeah, right to work. We could have opened this state up, and those guys just sat on their hands. But that just demonstrates that even the Senate leader of the Republican Party was a hand puppet of the teachers union. And you know, a lot of those people are. They don't want to run into that buzzsaw. Now, while I have the microphone, you'll hear all the time that Governor Corbett cut education spending. He never did. Now, what happened? They say it was slashed by what, $1 billion or something like that. Well, the stimulus package, when Obama and the Democrats and Arlen Specter passed that stimulus package, Rendell took the money and put it into public education. Not that he cared about public education, but it was used to prevent firings. He was protecting his public employees. And in fact, a lot of districts used that money to hire additional employees who are state employees, good Democrat voters. Right, but of course they did that anyway. So when that stimulus money ran out, Pennsylvania had, you know, 2 options. One was to either fill that void with state money, which wasn't there, or just cut it off. And that's what Corbett did. It was a sensible thing to do. That was a windfall that came in from the federal government that was cut off. So
But also our tax money.
yeah, it was our tax money going to the federal government. But Corbett did not cut state spending. The federal government cut their spending. And what's interesting, even in districts like Allentown, under Obama and the Democrats, we're getting 5% less per year from the federal government than we were when Obama came into office. We're getting the one entity of government that can print all the money at once is giving us less money for public education, and yet making more demands every day. So if any of your friends and neighbors say, oh, Corbett cut education spending, no, that's a canard. He was actually spending more state dollars on public education than any governor had previously spent.
Okay, Carol, it was talking to Carol, she mentioned something about the federal government monies going to East Penn are minuscule, and to do away with them probably would make fiscal sense. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
We had less than $1 million for our school district from federal government, and with all the strings that are attached and the the unfunded mandates that the school district has to end up paying more for, we probably come out even or close to it, so.
It would be smarter if other districts, if you would link up with other districts to do it, but because I'm sure they would try to punish you for doing that, for sure, you know.
Why don't you just put a Robert's plate flights out in different areas that cost us billions of dollars, and you could have all the money you wanted?
Yeah. How much longer do we have to endure his face on TV? Yeah.
Crooked Hillary's in back.
I know. Hey.
Do you know if there's been a comprehensive study of the ghost teachers in all 500 school districts across Pennsylvania?
The Fairness Center might have information on that, but it's Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. The big districts have the paid employees and Allentown. As far as we know, no other Class C city has somebody like we do, you know, a paid employee.
Let me give you this is small stuff, but this is where you got to start. Okay? Our school district, 439 vehicles parked in the parking lot across the East End, right? They don't get charged a nickel, kids. But yet the buses still have to go by in case they don't have their car available that day and pick them up. Does people understand, and people notice? You know, if we're still running a bus with 8 or 10 people in it because we may have 20 kids driving their car, and if they don't drive their car today, now, I know for a fact, because I've been in Southern Lehigh, they charge for the parking. Okay? Parkland, if you drive your car and you can't make it with your car the next day, you must call, otherwise the bus doesn't stop at your stop. Okay? And this is little small stuff. This is where you start. It's a big deal. Yes, it is. And the thing is, I mentioned the school board. If you charge the kids or the parents $1 a month, that's $439. For the school year, that's just like $2,500. Then when they have to paint the lines or do some work in the parking lot, they have money. You know what they do? They raise our taxes to pay for this, and these kids are doing it. And I don't blame the kids. It's just like now, all these kids. My son-in-law is a school teacher. Every kid in his chemistry has a school-owned computer right at their desk, and that's all the schools. You go to any school, in any classroom, they all have computers.
You can take them home.
Yeah, they can take them home too. And who's paying for it? We are.
People with jobs.
Yeah, but see, I'll be very honest with you. I'm going to tell you the truth, how I feel. It's our fault.
Well, it's not our fault, but it's the people who should be voting. Not, yeah.
That, what I'm saying is, if we don't get out to the school board meetings and go out and vote against people that want this and want that, it's our fault. Because I hear people talking about, look at the people here. I have people in our development, oh yeah, well, they come tonight, I told them what they didn't come. They're watching some TV show or something, you know.
Yeah, well, in Allentown, I think I received 900 votes. This was in a general election of a city of 100,000, and I was probably 150 votes behind the person in front of me, and he was 100 votes behind the person in front of him. So, I mean, you can win a school board race in Allentown in a general election with 1,200 votes in the city of 100,000. You know, that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
You should ask Pulaski, he could do anything you want.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned about the taxes, not trying to move the tax burden onto the state. But right now, the teachers union so well funds their friendly candidates that you're barking up a big hill because they have 800 votes behind the teachers union, just to be the teachers union members. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. And you got to win an election against that already. But if they move the tax burden to the sales tax and the income tax and whatever they're doing, it will force the people in Harrisburg to say, oh, we want more for the school district. I vote for a tax hike. And we can all see that. But when these guys here don't answer to anybody in these school boards, so I mean, they say, oh, well, we just need more money, and they just raise the taxes.
Well, that's something that everybody has to decide, you know, for themselves. One other little caveat, the state gives each school district different allocations every year. Allentown gets about 56 or 58% of its funding from the state. East Penn probably gets about, what, 12 or 11%? Yeah, so we're talking about equity in education. The state already is pouring a lot of money into places like Allentown, and that's your money already. So your money is already being spread around to other districts. Yeah.
However, with this new mandate from Obama, now all the districts, if they want to continue getting federal money, have to do what? Bathroom choices.
Well, I say that if you have a penis, you use the men's room. Everybody else go to the ladies' room. You know, that's worked for like 4,000 years.
But that's not the rule anymore.
I know.
Not
I know.
federal
It's
funding.
not in the law yet.
It's not a law, it's a guidance.
No, they're just trying to lather us up, and it's working.
Yeah, but that's what it's going for.
But hey, listen, trust me. A lot of I've had a lot of discussions with mostly older ladies. Oh, that's fine with me. I don't care who uses the bathroom. And I'm thinking, really? You know, I travel overseas, and I was in France, and there was this transgender bathroom where it was like, in France, the stalls are like ceiling to floor. I walked in, there were women at the sink. I thought, oh my God, I walked into the wrong one. So I back out and I look, no, it's really the bathroom for everyone. And you know, I just felt like a creep. You know what I mean? And I opened the door real tentatively. Good, nobody's in there. And I come out and I'm at the sink washing my hands, and there's women there washing hands. You know, I try to make small talk. But you know, honestly, everybody feels awkward about it. You know, I mean, I said to my wife, you know, you girls, ladies, when you're in the bathroom, you don't just wash your hands like us guys do. If guys can wash their hands, you look at your makeup, your hair, and if a guy's standing next to you, you can't do that. She's like, no, you know, she admits it. So anyway, we'll see. No. My wife wanted to go there, and thank God they had that terrorist attack. Oh, they have those in brasseries in France. They're harder to find now, though. Yeah. About 30 years ago, when I first went there, I said, "There's no toilet in there, Sophie." I said, "Yes, there is. Oh, it's a French toilet. You'll get used to it." Well, not in France. Go ahead.
On the lawsuit, you're going after money that the school paid out. How many years back are you going?
Well, in Allentown, it's 92. So, and trust me, the teachers union has the money. They've got tons of money. And the state teachers union would cover, if let's dream that we win this case at the state Supreme Court. If it goes that far, we win, like 20 years from now. The Pennsylvania State Education Association would cover the cost for the Allentown teachers. But look, any fight we engage with the teachers union is a beginning. The alternative is to just stay on our back and wait for our tummy to be rubbed, you know. Yeah.
Didn't you say that for the school district to pay the union dues is unconstitutional?
Well,
Why can't you make an issue out of that?
Well, yeah. And Governor Walker in Wisconsin did, and he had the fortitude to stand by it. And remember how ugly it got in Wisconsin. They occupied the State House. It was a god-awful display. And they tried to recall him 4 times. Any Republican who takes on the unions takes a thrashing. And let me tell you, I've been in for my share of abuse. Just a recent example, as soon as the news of the lawsuit came out and that I was directly related to it, urine bottles, plastic bottles filled with urine have been thrown against my house. And there's been about 40 of them so far. Yeah, the neighbors are alarmed. I live in Allentown, so I have an end unit row home. And the neighbors are alarmed because sometimes they land in their yard. And they're like wondering, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Well, welcome to my world.
But it's not ginger ale.
Listen. Well, the worst is when they break open. But my wife and I just sat down to dinner the other night, and we could hear it in the trees, and she went like that and went, just missed her. Yeah. Yeah. On Allentown public Facebook pages, social media sites, I've been called a Klansman, I've been called a bigot, I've been called a racist. I'm a house painter, and before that, I was a landscaper, and they impugned me for my professions. Oh, what's a landscaper doing? Oh, Armstrong smelled too many paint fumes. It's insult, 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 insult. That's all you get. Lynn, you know it. You're called the most vile things on the face of the earth. And you know what? They call me a bully. I'm sorry for emphasis. But they called me a bully. But what it really is I stood up to them. I stood up to them. So anybody who stands up to them is a bully. Yeah. Yeah. And people say, oh, are you going to run again next year? No, I've done my tour of duty. Thank you very much in that combat zone. And, you know, Allentown doesn't want me on the school board, and I don't want to be there either. Allentown can go its merry way. I did what I could. That city is beyond repair, honestly. Yeah.
Whether or not they have a NIS and an arena.
Yeah, I know. Well,
That ain't
yeah.
gonna help them.
No.
But they put it on your porch and buy it, then you know you're in real trouble.
Well, I had M80s put on my blown out back windshield of my car. That was about 8 years ago. That was before I was on the school board. I was involved in some other local politics then. Yeah. I took on the police union. That was the worst. I took on the police union over that contract. That was about 2006, and we actually brought up so many good points. Council voted against it. That didn't last long. The Afflerbach took it to binding. They took it to binding arbitration. Afflerbach appointed Tom Annawalt, an Allentown attorney, a good Democrat foot soldier, to go in and give away the store. So in binding arbitration, actually gave the police union more than Afflerbach gave them. But the police parked in front of my house, and I thought, that's great, fabulous. I could use that kind of protection. But really creepy things like I have a back doorbell that would ring in the middle of the night, stuff like that. Oh yeah.
Our phone rings in the middle of the night, please don't.
That's Singapore calling trying to sell you something. You want $1 million, you just have to send them 1,000 to get it, yeah? All right.
Calls, you know, then you're in trouble.
Otto.
I understand you not to say that those districts, the secondary ones, where the union representative may be teaching half the time and doing union work half the time, are they eventually going to be pulled into this thing? Or?
Yes, we'd like that, but what we need is people in those districts to file, to put their name on the line and join the Fairness Center, because the person filing the suit has to have standing. Now, if our first filing gets thrown out and the judge says, hey, the teachers can be paid by the taxpayers, if they agree with the teachers union, well, we'll probably appeal it, but we have to win somewhere along the line. Now, we think it's open and shut. It's against the school code. It's all there. But you know how the law works. It depends on who the judge is. It depends on who's on the jury. So we do want to encourage people who are giving release time to teachers to go after them. We'd like this to be a multi-front war against the teachers union. Lots of districts taking on the teachers union, because truthfully, the teachers union is not a popular entity. They're powerful, but they're not popular. People don't like these unions. They don't like public service worker unions because they don't perform. And look,
teachers anymore.
Everybody knows these people work less. They have shorter years, longer vacations, better benefits, more pay, and they retire at 55 on full pay for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
And then the other thing they have is state law allows judges and school directors to cross-file in the primaries. Only 10% of the population comes out to vote, but the teachers come out to vote in the primary, and that's where they cross-file them by default. It's a ordinance.
Yeah, well, I only got on the school board now because Crossfire as a Democrat.
Go up there and check. Hey, Lynn.
Hopefully
check
I'm
that out.
listening.
Maybe
Yeah.
the screws need tightened on.
Okay,
one
how's
of
that? I
the-
just put it in my pocket, stuffed waving it around. But I crossed out, but, you know, it is the duty. See, school boards are supposed to be nonpartisan. Well, you'll find out how nonpartisan it is when you act like a Republican on one. Yeah, then you'll find out.
2
How
elections
come you
ago,
have to be looking at a Democrat for one for?
Well, you know, we have a two-party system, so you have,
Say, I'll
in
be
the,
not political.
yeah, right.
in the primary 2 elections ago, the teachers' union supposedly spent $15,000 on their slate.
Well, I would not be surprised.
How do you compete against that?
Well, we spent $17,000 to try to get me reelected in Allentown. And, and I mean, here we had an FBI investigation. We had, you know, 2 of the people that were endorsed by I mean, his whole slate. The whole slate was connected with Ed Pulaski. And these people won anyway. Ellen Koval, the controller in Allentown, whose office was raided by the FBI, was reelected. If Ed Pulaski ran again today, I think he'd be reelected. You know, it's just, it is what it is in Allentown. It's Alice in Wonderland world, yeah. But yeah, the teachers' union is very strong, very strong. But you can pull off a victory for Republicans if you have a very quiet, under the radar, get out the vote effort. Because honestly, people are asleep at the switch for school directors. Yeah, school directors. And next year, it'll be another year for that. So what you need to do is very quietly get your voters out on election day, and you can pull it off. It could be done. John.
Yeah, just Scott, is one thing. It's not necessarily Republicans or Democrats. Like you said, 4 years of all Republicans, nothing happened.
Yeah.
R&D doesn't make any difference. You just got to pay attention to who it is.
Right.
Regardless.
And look how they trash the few candidates, the few elected officials who dare to not run into the herd. They trash them. Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, you know, all these guys who dare to disagree. And they're ridiculed and mocked and scorned.
They take their furniture out of their office and they don't let them
You know, I understand what everybody's saying, but look in the mirror. It's our fault.
Right.
And let me give you a prime example. I was just down to school and county for one of my government meetings, okay? And they had a representative in there, and he was upset because now, if you're a senator or representative, either you lease a car, the state pays for it. You know that they lease a car and the state pays for it. And if you buy your own car, they pay for your parking and your mileage. You know they get 54, 55 cents a mile. But I work for the government and I know what it is. Okay? Who worked in here, they got paid for their mileage when they go to work? They go down there, they spend their breakfast, lunch, dinner, if they have to stay, they stay overnight. It's all paid.
And they don't have to turn or receive it.
That's right.
Why don't we have jobs where we can make our own benefits like
But see,
that?
you know, we're talking about honest stuff, but we don't do a thing. The people that should be screaming and hollering and everything else, we're not doing anything. And this representative said, he said, oh, Mr. Caputo, they're talking about taking away one of the things. I said, what's next? He said, either pay us mileage with our car, or I can lease a car and I have to pay for the gas. Most of the cars we're driving, every year they get a new one, or every 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
They're all brand new cars, they pay for the gas. Oh, I said, I'm awfully sorry you have to pay for mileage, you know what I mean? But they get like 50, 60 cents per mile and everything else.
No elected official should be getting a taxpayer-funded pension. If you're an elected official, buy your own freaking pension like the rest of us do. I work every day. I get up and work every day like everybody here did or still does. And I provide my own savings for when I retire. I don't expect anybody else to pay for my retirement except for Social Security, which is like a done deal. But no, elected officials, after 6 years, are vested into a very generous pension system, the same one that the teachers are in that's bankrupting the state. Yeah, judges too. Yeah.
What people don't understand is that, like Doug Rankin, let's take Charlie Peck, state rep, he gets a state rep pension, he was a state senator, he gets a state senator pension, now he's a congressman. He gets a con, if he runs for Senate, he gets a Senate. He'll get 3 or 4 pensions. Like Reichley, he's gonna get state representative and the judge pension. So.
Yeah, it's a sweet deal.
That's why, I know that, that's why he jumped in, I don't know, it's been about 8 or 10 years now, he turned in, he went to be the judge and everything else. Before he was getting voted, you know, whatever it is.
And that's why they all turn into team players when they get to Harrisburg, because they just have to get reelected 2 or 3 times, and they're vested into that, and once they've been there so long, they're not gonna lose, and it's a sweet deal. And then they can quit after 15, 20 years and become lobbyists.
And see, the majority of the people, I'll say 99% of the people living in the country have no idea this is going on.
Right.
When I brought it up about this representative, I said, oh, you're concerned they might take your lease away from me? He said, yeah. I said, well, you're getting mobbed. He said, yeah. I said, well, they're paying for your gas, or whatever they go. They're paying for your sleeping and eating and everything else. And everybody went to the meetings. Oh, I didn't know that. That's why they're doing it, because nobody knows it.
No, wait, I remember one thing. Doug Reichley having a breakfast here one year, there's probably 100, 150 people there, and so Goldman gets up, she goes, Representative Reichley, I'd like to thank you for this breakfast today. And I jumped up, I said, ma'am, excuse me, you paid for the breakfast,
That's right.
not him. You know?
Maybe not today, but you call that.
Oh yeah, I was called on the carpet after that.
Yeah, well,
You don't want to do that to me.
John's known for that. Getting in politicians' faces.
So I thought he was, I went door to door and helped him, and he was getting turned on.
They're all nice
Yeah.
women and guys when I talk to them. Charlie Dent's a swell guy. He just like want to beat your head against the wall when you see how he votes, you know. All right. Well, listen. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Yeah. I'll have a shot for your house.
Thank you.